Hey guys, today we're going to make a really simple little 6x6 folio using leftovers from a paper pack I had. So I had this Carta Bella Spring Market paper from last year, and as you can see, I don't have a lot left. I did a bunch of layouts, and I have about 5 sheets of this left. So I'm going to show you how you can turn your scraps into a little folio style album that you can either gift to someone for the spring or keep it for yourself. But follow along and we'll get started. Hey everyone, so here's the little album we're going to be creating. This is just a mini folio style. So we have a little 1/2 inch spine here. I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of what we're putting together. So this is a 6x6 album. It actually measures 6 1/4 by 6 1/4 so that you can either use a 6x6 paper pad or some obviously 12 by 12 cardstock, and it's really easy to cut to size with not a lot of measuring required. So let's do a quick walkthrough. So we have a little ribbon to keep it all tied together. So that's just attached from the back here. So let's just open that up and take a look inside. So I've got just some embellishments on the front cover. I popped this up and put in some brads. These are Prima flowers. And then the rest is just ephemera and stickers from the kit and what I had from the leftovers. So it just opens up to the left and we have a belly band and just a couple of cards for you to put some pictures onto or journal, whatever you like. Okay, then over on this side, we have a little card, and I just used a little paper clip, circular paper clip here, so you can just tuck that back underneath. And it opens up this way. And so over here we have this flap, opens up. So some space for pictures here. And there's no magnets in this album, which you'll hear about in the making process. So I've just used different ways to layer the paper to keep things shut. So then in the center we have a little waterfall. So this flips open. Okay. And so for my waterfalls, I always leave one side blank to have space for the pictures. There you go. All right, and then this goes back together. This just tucks under there. And so that's really it. It's a very quick little mini album that you can make to give away. I just thought we'd get into a bit of the spring mood with all this winter weather going on and get ready for the flowers coming hopefully soon. All right, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoy it. Bye-bye. Okay, so let's get started with our album. The first thing we're going to do is work on the cover. So for the cover, you're going to need to cut 3 pieces. The first 2 are identical. So you're going to cut 2 pieces that measure 6 1/4 by 7 1/4. Now, just a note, which I cover this at the beginning of all my videos. If you follow along, I have a very specific way of ordering my measurements. So we are always cutting height first by width. So that's how I read out my measurements for you. Also, we're not doing all the cutting and then putting the pieces aside and then putting it together. We're going to cut and glue together or tape together as we go. Otherwise, I find it's just confusing. And this is, to me, I've done many different methods. This is the quickest approach. So just wanted to give you a little note on that. So let's go ahead and start cutting our first pieces. So I have some scraps, which I'm going to try and also take advantage of. So if you see me with smaller pieces, it's because they're from a previous project. But let's go ahead and cut our first piece at 6 1/4 by 7 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this out at 6 1/4. All right, this piece happens to be 6 1/4. And then I want 7 1/4. There we go. Okay, so for your first piece that you scored at 6 1/4, that you cut at 6 1/4 and 7 1/4, you're going to go ahead and score that at 6 1/4, and then again at 6 3/4. So we're going to score right here at 6 1/4, and then at 6 3/4. Okay, so what you can see here is that we're making a 1/2 inch spine on this book, and then this 1/2 inch is for me to go ahead and attach this to the back of the book. So let's just go ahead and fold those forward. There we go. Okay, so there's our front cover of the album. And remember I said we're going to need 2 of those pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and cut another one of these at 6 1/4 by 7 1/4. Okay, and again, go ahead and score. So just a note, you're putting the 7 1/4 side along the top of your scoreboard, okay? So score that again at 6 1/4 and 6 3/4. There we go. Sorry, I did score that in the wrong spot initially. Okay, so 6 1/4 and 6 3/4 are your 2 scoring spots. And so see, now what we have is the front cover and the back cover. And now I just need to cut the piece that sits in the middle. So that one's fairly straightforward. We don't require any scoring on that. So you're going to cut that at 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. There we go. Okay, so let's start to put this together and get these pieces out of the way. I'm recommending and use 3/8 of an inch tape for this if you have it. I happen to have ordered a whole bunch of 1/2 inch tape, so I'm going to use it. It's not ideal because it does hang off a little bit, but it's fine. I'm going to be covering all of this with paper, but if you have 3/8 of an inch, that's what I would recommend. Okay, so to attach this, we're going to put our tape along here, the inside of our score mark. And when you're putting down the tape, please remember, don't get it right on the score line, because you want the paper, you want your fold to actually work. And if you're on the score line, you won't be able to fold it easily. Okay, so what I do now is I just peel back one corner like that, so I can line up the back of my page. So I'm attaching the right side right now. So I'm just lining this up before I take all of the tape off. And so you can see, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going just to the left of the score line. I don't want to cover up that score line because then I won't get a nice fold, as I mentioned. Okay, so now I've got this nicely lined up. I can just slowly peel the tape out and stick that down, and there you go. All right, perfect. So that's our right side. Now we can go ahead and do the same thing for the left side. So put down your score tape here. Again, try not to cover up that score line. Go very close to it, like right next to it. Okay, and we'll just peel that back. And again, line up everything before you start pulling the tape back. And then I just sort of press and as I peel off so that if I need to make any adjustments, I can. Okay, great. So we're already done the outside and the structure of this book. So let's get working on this left side flap. So over here we have 2 flaps, and instead of using magnets, I'm trying to actually do some books without magnets because I find that the price gets a little bit pricey when you do that. So I'm going to show you a way to keep this flap closed without magnets. So what you're going to do for here is you're going to cut a few pieces. So first piece you're going to cut is 6 1/4 by 4 inches. So let's go ahead and cut that. So you should probably have a scrap that you can use for this. So 6 1/4 by 4. Great. And you're going to go ahead and score that at half. So put your 4-inch side across the top of your scoreboard. Okay, and just score this at half like so. Okay, and we're going to cut the other side before we attach that. So you're going to cut another piece that measures 6 1/4 by 3 3/4. So 6 1/4, and I have a scrap by 3 3/4. Okay, I didn't plan this, but coincidentally, that's exactly this piece measures. So 6 1/4 by 3 3/4. And once again, put your short side along the top and score it half. Okay. All right, so these are going to sit on this page like so. So let's go ahead and attach those, and then I'll show you how we keep it shut using just a little closure flap. So let's go ahead and put our tape down. And again, I'm going to use the same technique here where I'm just pulling back one corner of my backing, my tape. And so the bigger piece that you cut, so your 6 1/4 by 4 piece, will go on to the left side. So just line this up. So you folded the back over and you're lining up at the top corner. Again, make sure you can see your score line over here. Okay, that's lined up, so I'm just going to pull that out. That side. You can go ahead and do the other side. Now, because I used the 1/2 inch tape and I said it does hang over a little bit, I just peeled off the backing so I can tuck the hangover underneath. But again, if you have 3/8, that's what you want to use. I'm just trying to use up my stash of supplies so I don't have to throw it out. Okay, there we go. Just line this up here. Okay, perfect. So I've got those here, and then I want this flap to stay closed. So it's really, really quite easy. I know that when I'm finished, I'm probably going to use a 3x4 card to decorate. So your closure flap here is going to be a 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. Okay, so let's measure that out. There's a 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. Okay, because I know I'm going to probably use one of the 3x4 cards from the kit to decorate that. Okay, and so we're not going to actually glue this down because you'll want to decorate it. You'll want to put down your patterned paper before you do this. So we'll go and attach this at the end, but I just want to show you what is going to happen here. You're going to attach it to the right side of your flap, and then you're going to only glue it down till about on one edge. Rather, you're only going to glue down one edge, and so you'll be able to tuck this page underneath, so it's going to all stay closed for you just like that. Okay, so we will finish that later. So we're just going to set this little piece aside so it's ready to go, and now we can work just on the center part, which is very basic. It's a waterfall, and it's going to be a 5 sheet waterfall that measures 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, because I'm going to use the 4x6 cards from the collection kit to decorate that. Okay, the other thing is, again, I don't want to use magnets, so I'm going to make some closure flaps similar to this, but they're going to be horizontal to keep the centerpiece closed. Okay, so let's start making the 2 flaps that are going to close up our waterfall. Because the waterfall has got, it's going to sort of take up a little bit of space, I'm going to make a 1/4 inch sort of spine on these flaps. So anyways, without more talking, let's go ahead and make those. So you're going to cut 2 pieces. Your first piece is going to measure 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. So 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. And I'm going to be putting this up at the top, and it's going to flip open here like that. So we're going to score this along here. So I'm going to put my short end across the top. Okay, so your 4 3/4 side is across the top, and you're going to score this at 1/2 and then at 3/4. Okay, so that's going to give our waterfall a little bit of space. So I've just made a 1/4 inch spine essentially. Okay, so just fold those. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and attach this piece, and then we'll go and move on and do the bottom. Okay, so I'm just going to stick this down right along the top edge. Okay, so you can see that here what I've done is we have a little 1/4 inch spine. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and cut our bottom flap. So the bottom flap is going to measure 4 by 6 1/4. So you can see if you have any scraps. This one is too small. So there's my 6 1/4. By 4. Okay, and again, I'm going to score along this longer side. So I'm putting the short side up to the top. And again, score this at 1/2. And then score it 3/4. Okay, so we can go ahead and attach that here as well. Oops, I probably should put on my glasses. So again, I'm just lining up against the bottom edge. Okay, and I'll just peel that back. Okay, so I just want to make sure everything is nice and lined up before I go any further. I always check that my book is always closing and that nothing is sticking, has not been centered properly. So that looks good. So now, once again, we're going to use the same technique for this closure as we did, as I showed you over here. So you're going to measure a little closure card, and again, I know that I will probably be using one of these 3x4 cards here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that at 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. Okay, and so that's going to get attached to this top piece, and then this will be able to tuck underneath once it's attached. So we're gonna do that later once we start putting down our decorative paper, so we can set this piece aside for now as well. Okay, so let's now start working on the waterfall. So what I mentioned is that we're going to have 5 waterfall cards, and they're going to measure 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. So let's cut those, and we'll just do the first one and put it in just to show you. So we're measuring height of 4 3/4. Okay, and then the width will be 6 1/4. Okay, and then you're going to score these at half. So we're scoring along the long side, so put your 4 3/4 side across the top and score at half. Okay. Can just fold that over. Okay, we can go ahead and put in the first waterfall. We'll just get our score tape attached across the top. So attaching waterfall can be a little tricky because you want them all to line up. So I'm going to show you how I do that, but we'll have to cut all of our waterfall pieces first. So let's go ahead and attach the first piece, and then I'll show you the others. So you're going to line up to the top of your page, and I'm going to just look and make sure that I'm properly lined up and that the book can still close. Like I haven't, even if you're over just a tiny bit, sometimes that'll interfere with the book closing. So I just need to nudge over a little bit. And I use the same technique again, where I've got just a corner of the backing pulled out until I line it up, and then I just start to slowly peel it out and stick down as I go. Okay, so there's your first flap in the waterfall. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm gonna just go away now and cut the next 4 pieces. So you can press pause, because when we come back, I will have all the pieces for the waterfall cut. So 4 more pieces that we're going to cut and score at 1/2 inch along this long side. And when we come back, we'll attach them into the album. So go ahead and cut those again at 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. Cut 4 more and put your score tape on them, and we will come back and put them into the album. Okay, so we're back. I've cut 4 more waterfall pieces, and we're going to go ahead and attach those. So I have my first waterfall flap down. Remember, this is the outside closure with your little spine. Okay, so to attach the second piece, go ahead and fold back a corner of your backing from your tape. Okay, you're only going to fold back one little corner, and then line up against the previous card that you put down, and make sure as you lined up that you're even on the sides, and that when you close the one on top of it, they're even as well on the sides. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, so there's flap number 2. Again, do the same thing with flap number 3. Line it up to the previous card. Make sure, see, this one needs a little nudge to make sure it's lined up. Okay, and pull that out. And so once you get the hang of this, I think when I first started doing waterfalls, like I really had some struggles with them being crooked. So this I find pretty foolproof. It's very, it works really, really well. As you just kind of keep checking and making a little nudge. There we go. And we have one more to put down. Like that. Okay, I want to make sure it's lined up. I want to make sure my bottom flap will still fold, which it does, so I haven't come too low. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flaps, and then your outside closure, which will stay closed like this. So let's just take a quick sort of inventory of where we are at with our little album, or a little folio rather. So we've got front cover opens up. Onto the right side, we have this area, these 2 flaps that open. Then we will have the waterfall section that opens up with our waterfall inside. Okay, so now we should put something over here, and I'm going to keep it simple because it's a light album, so you're not going to put a million pictures in here. So over here, we're just going to put a nice simple little belly band. So let's go ahead and measure out what we need for the belly band, and this is pretty easy because the belly band is just simply going to measure 6 1/4 inches tall, so the same height as your paper, and then you can make it as wide as you like. So in this case, I'm probably going to make it about 2 inches wide, and I'll tell you why, because I've already decided how I'm going to decorate. And sorry if my voice went away, I just turned around for a second, but I'm going to use in the kit, there's a piece of paper with these strips on it. So I'm going to use one of these strips, and I'm most likely going to use these bicycles. So I'm just going to measure how wide this is so that I can have a little bit of a frame around it. So I'm just going to measure out and put a little mark here of how wide I want this to be because I'm matting it. I want it to be sort of matted. So I'm going to cut. You probably can't see that. But that's how wide I'm making this one. So let's just go ahead and cut the length. That's 6 1/4 as we mentioned. Okay. And then my width based on how I'm decorating this belly band looks to be about 2 3/8. Okay, so again, you can do this however you like. You can make it skinnier, okay, but it's going to sit just like this, and we'll be able to tuck photos behind it. Okay, so we are not going to attach the belly band until we've put down our patterned paper, because then we'll stick that on top of whatever pattern paper we use for this side. Okay, so that is pretty much it for the album. There's your no magnet mini folio, and we can start to decorate now. So before I start decorating, I want to show you this punch that I'm going to be using. It does a really, really cute corner. This is a crocodile corner chomper from We Are Memory Keepers. I think this is fairly new, although I heard that it was a remake. So this does 2 types of corners. It does a stub, which is kind of an inverted corner rounder, and does another corner called deco, which is what I'm going to use throughout this album. So if you're making a bigger album, I would highly suggest that you do your corners before you start sticking all the pages in, but because we just have a little album, we can go ahead and go in and do this after we put it together. So I just want to show you one page because you'll see it throughout when we're decorating, and I just wanted to show you what I've been using. So it's really easy to use. You just kind of get it in the corner, and then it makes this this little pattern for you. Okay, so I'm going to have done that throughout several places in the album, and this is what I used to do that. Okay, so I have started to decorate a little bit, and I want to show you how these closure flaps will work to keep these tucked in without needing a magnet. So if you remember, we have our center waterfall, and then we have the 2 flaps that would keep this closed. And so when I was walking through the tutorial, I said we were going to actually, we cut out a card for this space, and I was going to use one of my 3x4s, but I decided I'm going to use a truck sticker. So I matted this onto some black cardstock just to make it a little bit heavier, but it's the same concept. So I want this to stay closed by being able to tuck this flap underneath this truck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this closed as it would be when it's closed, and then I'm going to place the truck so that it is low enough that I can tuck this under when I want to go ahead and close the book. So you don't want to put it too low because it'll just bend your card too much when you're trying to tuck this flap under. So I'm putting it about here, which is about half an inch. And no, it's about an inch where you have to tuck under. So to 3/4 of an inch, but just use your judgment when you're putting it in and see what would work without having to bend this too much. So I'm going to go ahead and just put glue along the top of this. And you'll notice I've switched to glue when I'm putting the paper in, just because I like that. I just prefer that. So I'm only putting glue along sort of the top half inch of this piece. And I'm just going to center it here. It's going to go right about here, like that. Okay, and I'm just going to give that a minute to set. Okay, so this glue sets pretty quickly. So you can see that I can go ahead and just, as I'm bringing this down, you can just lift up your truck and tuck the paper under, and that will keep it closed without needing a magnet. So I'm going to show you the same thing over here where it's a vertical closure, but it's going to be the exact same concept that's going to apply. Okay, so again, I've covered my flaps with decorative paper. And so the way I want this to work is I would like this flap to tuck under here. So I'm just going to put glue along one side of my card that we cut out earlier, like that. And I'm just going to center this here like this. So I'm centering this on this page. Okay. Just let that set for a minute. All right, so there we go. So that's just tucks right under there, and that'll stay closed for you as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's a way to save on magnets. Of course, the magnets will be more secure, but this actually is a nice little way to do it without magnets and just using your papers and some little tricks on the paper itself. Okay, so as I continue to decorate, I just want to show you one of the ways that I embellish my pages. So I've done this already on a couple of these little cards that I'm going to be using, but I use the glossy accents from Ranger. And I don't know if you've used these before, but I just want to show you that you can make a nice glossy enameled finish on your work. And so that's just how I jazz up my embellishments a little bit. So it's really easy to do. If you haven't done it before, this is just a 10-second segment on how to actually do it. So what you want to do is just squeeze out a little bit of the glossy accents into the center. And then you can just sort of drag it around. It has quite thick viscosity, so I'll be able to drag it around into the shape where you want it to be. So in this case, I'm going to do this wreath. So I'm going to squirt into the center of the flowers and then just sort of drag it around. And then you can continue doing that on anything you like. And then it takes a couple of hours for it to dry, but once it dries, it looks really, really pretty and a really nice accent on your things. If you have it, I also recommend you keep a stainless steel pin in it just so that next time you go to use it, your nozzle is not clogged. But I just thought I would share that with you too. Okay, the other thing I want to show you is that you can also put sprinkles on top of your glossy accents. So I just put down some glossy accents on this card, just on the flowers and around the trim. And I want to put down some sparkles. So I'm using this distress glitter from Tim Holtz or Ranger, and it's just a very fine glitter. You can use whatever you like. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. And the glossy accents acts like a glue. So what you'll end up with is just a raised up sparkly bit of glitter. So it's really pretty once it's dry. So we're just going to pour that all over the top. Here we go. Okay, so you can already tell a little bit once this dries up, the glossy accents dries clear, and you'll just be left with sort of this raised up glitter. All right, so we were keeping this book closed with some ribbon, so I want to show you how we're going to go ahead and do that. So you're going to need one piece of ribbon that measures about, let's call it 12, 13, about 16 to 17 inches, okay? So any kind of ribbon you like. I like this black and white gingham. It kind of looks gardeny to me anyways. And since I have a black base, I'm going to go ahead and use that. So the way that we're going to do this is actually we're going to, we want to conserve ribbon. So really all we need to do is from the back cover, we get our decorative paper, and then we're going to cut this ribbon in half and then glue it under our decorative paper. Okay, so let's just go ahead and just fold your piece in half and cut it. Okay. And I'm just going to then go ahead and put some glue on the end and place this down on the back cover, just around the center. Not too far close to the edge, but probably about an inch in, like that. Okay. Go ahead and glue down the other side. Again, like that. Okay, and then you can go ahead and cover the back with the decorative paper that you've chosen. So I'm using this piece here. So I'm going to go ahead, and somebody asked me once, how do I, where are the cut measurements for my decorative paper? I don't do that. All I do is take my piece of paper and mark out with a pencil how much frame I'd like. So for example, just take my piece of paper and mark out the spots and then cut that way. So I don't actually measure my decorative pieces. Okay, so actually I want to use the boot side for the back. So I'm just going to go in with my glue, just a thin line close to the edge as you can. Oops. I'm just going to put a little in the center to tack it down. And let me make sure which is my right way up. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and stick my decorative paper down. And that is going to hold down my ribbon in the back pretty securely. So I've got it glued down, and then it's under this paper. So you can flip your album over and you will be able to tie a nice little bow or a knot, whatever. I just have done this long enough to tie a little knot like that, but you can make it longer and make a bow, whatever you like. So now we can go ahead and decorate the front cover. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and decorate the outside cover. So I've already attached this flowered paper to the front that I cut out in a 6x6 square. And I'm going to decorate using, I like this tag, Happiness Blooms from Within. So this is from the ephemera pack. I just simply mounted it onto some black cardstock, and then I added these two little silver brads to that. So I'm going to use my foam dots and just attach this. And I like it, I want it to be raised, and I'm going to actually, I'm going to make sure my foam dots are not like right at the edge, because I may want to just tuck some things underneath, some other ephemera underneath there. So just take off the backing. Okay, and I want to put this in the center more or less. So when my ribbon comes around, it'll be right in the center of that. There we go. Okay, and then I have just some little tags that I want to, stick in here and there. So I like this one. I love the bottom and the top. So I'm just going to cut this in half so that I can use both pieces. And I'm just going to tuck in, that's going to tuck in here. That can go down there. So we can have that hanging over the edge a bit, because I'll put a flower or some embellishment there to cover that up. There we go. Okay. Okay, and so I'm just going off my sticker sheet of whatever I had left. I had quite a few stickers left, so I'm going to go ahead and just sort of, you know, pick some things to stick here. So I'm going with the little rain boots. I really love the little watering can, so I'm going to use that as well. Put that up here. Okay. And so I've got these little flowers that I want to use, so I'm probably going to put those here and just find maybe some matching ephemera and stickers. So I have this little one. It's a wonderful day, so I'll just probably stick that just coming out the side of the flowers. So it's really up to you how you want place for your cover. So the main point is that we've done this sort of in the center and then started building up around the sides. And it's always good to group things in 3. So I've got sort of 1, 2, 3 areas that I'm decorating. Then I've got 3 flowers. So that gives you the balance as well. But as you can see, it's really kind of up to you of how you want to decorate this. So I'm just going to pop up this little rose over here. And so you can just sort of keep going and adding as much as you like. But that looks about good for me. I'm thinking maybe just one more, maybe these little sort of little leaves, just kind of fill in this space here. And yeah, there we go. So now I'm going to glue my flowers down last because I just sort of like to see where they look best after I have my other ephemera down. And these flowers are from Prima. So I just had them in my stash, and I just happened to have this color that I could pull out and match up here. Okay, so that's how our cover will look. And the cover really design is up to you. You can definitely change it up. But I really think that looks sweet. Okay, now we just have one thing left to show, which is how to attach the belly band, which is fairly straightforward. So you can either use double-sided tape or glue. In this case, I'm just going to use glue. And we're just going to put some glue along the top and the bottom edge and just stick it down. Okay, just hold on to that. Okay, and then you can go ahead and make your cards to slide underneath.